Have you ever noticed that the kindest, happiest people, those who are always smiling and always see the positive in any situation, are also the scariest people in the world when they are angry? Jesus is often described as meek and mild, and yet there's one bit in the Bible where we see the angry side to Jesus, and it's a little bit terrifying, if not a bit confusing. Jesus goes to the temple where he discovers people selling overpriced animals for sacrifice. He throws over the tables and shouts, "My house would be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers." Without any context, this seems very different to the all-loving, self-sacrificial Jesus that we know and love. But in order for us to understand this passage, we must understand the emotion of anger. Anger is the result of injustice, when things don't go the way they should or the way we think they should. Now, sometimes this is selfish anger, and that's when we perceive that there's an injustice, when in actual reality it's just us being selfish. For example, when you say it's unfair that you can't have another chocolate bar despite already having 5 and it's nearly time for tea. Ultimately, we want something for ourselves as an individual to make us feel good, and when we're not allowed that thing, we can perceive it as an injustice, when in actual fact it's not injustice at all. But there's another kind of anger, a good kind of anger, and it's called righteous anger. And that's when there is an injustice, a real injustice, not just to us, but to other people as well. When people aren't being treated quite right, or when things aren't happening the way that they should be happening. And this is the anger that Jesus demonstrates in the passage we're looking at today. Jesus was angry at the way people were treating the temple. The temple was God's holy place. It was where people went to worship God, to build their relationship with God. In those days, in order for your sin to be forgiven, you needed to sacrifice an animal in place of you. Now, I haven't got too much time to go into it, but it is coming up in your Stuff for a Sunday activity book, so hold on until then. The problem was the sellers were charging ridiculous prices for these animals, taking extreme advantage over the poor. Remember, in those days, sin could only be forgiven if there was an animal sacrifice. Now, sin gets in the way of our relationship with God. So in other words, they were charging people to have a relationship with God. They were massively overcharging people to have a relationship with God. And if you couldn't afford that, then you couldn't afford to have a relationship with God. And that's not how God intended it to be. God wants a relationship with everyone. It should be easily accessible. On our Sunday mornings, we've been looking at God's story, and we started off with God's creation, and how when God created the world, every time he made something, he declared it good. He made it and it was good. However, as time has gone on, things aren't so good anymore. We've mistreated our planet. We litter and pollute the air and the oceans. We've mistreated our resources. We've chopped down entire forests and dug giant holes and left a mess. We continue to mistreat one another, calling each other names, blaming each other, judging each other on the colour of our skin, sometimes even physically hurting one another too. When we see these things happen in the world, to ourselves or to other people, we can understandably get angry. We want to scream. There's this burning sensation inside, and we just want to scream, "It's not fair!" Jesus felt the same. When he saw that people weren't doing the right thing, he became angry and he flipped over the tables. It's okay to be angry when you see injustice in the world. In fact, it's a really good thing. It shows that you care. But make sure that you take the time to check in and really think, is this an injustice, or is this me just being selfish? But it's not okay to stay angry. Jesus wasn't angry all the time. He wasn't constantly going around flipping tables. When we act in anger, it can cause us to do things we regret. For example, there was one time where I didn't get into drama school, and I had all my hopes and dreams pinned to getting into drama school, and I didn't get in, and I was so angry. I had a tray, I was eating off a tray, and I just went BAM! Like that, and I kneed it, and I broke the tray, like smashed it in half. and it was a bit awkward because it was my mum's favourite tray and she's never quite gotten over it. What we need to do is to take our anger, take our energy, and put it into restoring justice into this broken world. Firstly, calm yourself down. Do a breathing exercise. Here's a quick one. Lie on your bed, place a cuddly toy on your belly, then breathe in for 2 seconds and out for 2 seconds. Watch the cuddly toy rise and fall. If you're angry with someone, write it all down. And I mean write everything down. Everything that you really want to say to them. And then reread what you've written. And you'll find there's lots of stuff in there that you know that you shouldn't say to anyone under any circumstance. And you can cross that out. And there's other things that you want to say but aren't very helpful, aren't going to help you win your case, aren't going to help you restore justice. Cut them out. And what you're left with is what you really want to say, what you really need to say. The main point, the main injustice that you are trying to help. Often we say things we don't mean when we're full of anger. And it can cause more injustice in the situation. And it can also be more of a hindrance rather than a help to the situation too. Jesus flipping over the tables was a massive shake-up to people. It really woke people up to the injustice that was going on in the temples. Now, I'm not saying that that's what we should be doing, is going around and flipping tables wherever we see injustice. But let's use it as a metaphor. Flipping over the tables, turning things on its head, changing the game. So in our lives, where can we flip the tables? Where can we change the game? Perhaps it's simple, like putting someone's rubbish in the bin. Or maybe it's a little bit more advanced by writing to the government, asking them to reduce plastic packaging and to bring about change in laws. Maybe it's standing up to a bully, telling a bully that it's not right to call people's names or to pick on someone. And maybe it's going one step further and helping the bully. Deep down, everyone is the good person that God created them to be. Bullies often bully because they are suffering with their own injustice and they don't know how to handle their emotions. Remember that bottle? And so it all explodes, and often as a result other people are hurt by it. So how could you help that bully come to terms with their emotions? It's okay to be angry. In fact, it's good to be angry when we see injustice in the world. It shows us that we have God's heart. But it's not okay to stay angry. We have to take that anger, we have to take that energy and put it into being a force for good in the world. To restore justice to this broken world. To flip over tables and to change the game.